So in the same way, we find that the watching self, or the observing self, behind all our thoughts and feelings, is itself a thought. That is to say, when the police enter a house in which there are thieves, the thieves go up from the ground floor to the first floor. When the police arrive on the first floor, the thieves have gone up to the second, and so to the third, and finally out to the roof. And so when the ego is about to be unmasked, it immediately identifies with the higher self. It goes up a level. Because the religious game is simply a refined and highbrow version of the ordinary game. How can I outwit me? How can I one-up me? So, if I find, for example, that in the quest for pleasure, the ordinary pleasures of the world, food, sex, power, food, sex, power, all this becomes a drag, and I think, no, it isn't there, so I go in for the arts, literature, poetry, music, and I absorb myself in those pleasures, food, sex, power, and I absorb myself in literature, poetry, music, those pleasures, food, sex, power, and I absorb myself in literature, poetry, music, food, sex, power, literature, poetry, music, food, sex, power. And after a while, they aren't the answer. So I go to psychoanalysis. And then I found out that's not the answer. I go to religion. But I'm still seeking what I was seeking when I wanted candy bars. I want to get that goodie. Only I see now that, of course, it's not going to be a material goodie. All material goodies fall apart. But maybe there's a spiritual goodie that's not going to fall apart. But in that quest, the quest is not different from the quest for the candy bar. Same old story. Only you've refined the candy bar, made it abstract and holy and blessed and so on. So it is with the higher self. The higher self's your old ego. And you sure hope it is eternal. Food, sex, power, I absorb myself in literature, poetry, music, those pleasures. Food, sex, power, I absorb myself in literature, poetry, music, those pleasures. Food, sex, power, I absorb myself in literature, poetry, music, those pleasures. Food, sex, power.
And in these inquiries into the mystery of death, the ancient Egyptians weren't just exercising their imaginations. They highly valued dream states, and it's now known that they used visionary plants like the hallucinogenic blue water lily. The ancient Egyptian tree of life has recently been identified as the Acacia nilotica, which contains high quantities of DMT, the same active ingredient that we find in ayahuasca. Now, it's difficult to imagine a society more different from the society of ancient Egypt than our society today. We hate visionary states in this society. In our society, if we want to insult somebody, we call them a dreamer. In ancient societies, that was praise. In our society, if we want to insult somebody, we call them a dreamer. In our society, if we want to insult somebody, we call them a dreamer. In ancient societies, that was praise. We have erected huge apparatuses of armed bureaucracies who will invade our privacy, who will break down our doors, who will arrest us, who will send us to prison, sometimes for years, for possessing even small quantities of psilocybin or substances like DMT, whether in its smokable form or in the ayahuasca brew. And yet, ironically, DMT is, we now know, a natural brain hormone. We all have it in our bodies, and it's just that its function remains unknown for lack of research. And it's not as though our society is opposed in principle to altered states of consciousness. I mean, billions are being made by the unholy alliance of psychiatrists and big pharma in overprescribing drugs to control so-called syndromes like depression or attention deficit disorder in teenagers. In our society, if we want to insult somebody, we call them a dreamer. In our society, if we want to insult somebody, we call them a dreamer. In ancient societies, that was praise. We have a love affair with alcohol. We glorify this most boring of drugs, despite the terrible consequences that it often has. And of course, we love our stimulants, our tea, our coffee, our energy drinks, our sugar, and huge industries are built around these substances, which are valued because of the way they alter consciousness. But what all these approved altered states of consciousness have in common is that none of them contradict or conflict with the basic state of consciousness valued by our society, which I would call the alert, problem-solving state of consciousness, which is good for the more mundane aspects of science. It's good for the prosecution of warfare. It's good for commerce. It's good for politics. But I think everybody realizes that the promise of a society over-monopolistically based upon this state of consciousness has proved hollow, and that this model is no longer working, that it's broken in every possible sense that a model can be broken, and that urgently we need to find something to replace it. The vast problems of global pollution that have resulted from the single-minded pursuit of profit, the horrors of nuclear proliferation, the specter of hunger that millions every night go to bed starving, that we can't even solve this problem despite our alert, problem-solving state of consciousness. In our society, if we want to insult somebody, we call them a dreamer. In our society, if we want to insult somebody, we call them a dreamer. In ancient societies, that was praise. In our society, if we want to insult somebody, we call them a dreamer. In our society, if we want to insult somebody, we call them a dreamer. In ancient societies, that was praise.
cannot change anything unless we accept it. We cannot change anything unless we accept it. Unless we accept it. Unless we accept it. We cannot change anything unless we accept it. Condemnation does not liberate. It oppresses. I am the oppressor of the person I condemn, not his friend and fellow sufferer. Fellow sufferer. I do not in the least mean to say that we must never pass judgment when we desire to help and improve. But if the doctor wishes to help a human being, he must be able to accept him as he is. And he can do this in reality only when he has already seen and accepted himself as he is. As he is. Perhaps this sounds very simple, but simple things are always the most difficult. In actual life, it requires the greatest art to be simple, and so acceptance of oneself is the essence of the moral problem and the acid test of one's whole outlook on life. We cannot change anything unless we accept it. We cannot change anything unless we accept it. Unless we accept it. Unless we accept it. We cannot change anything unless we accept it. That I feed the beggar, that I forgive an insult, that I love my enemy in the name of Christ, all these are undoubtedly great virtues. What I do unto the least of my brethren, that I do unto Christ. But what if I should discover that the least amongst them all, the poorest of all beggars, the most impudent of all offenders, yea, the very fiend himself, that these are within me, and that I myself stand in need of the arms of my own kindness, that I myself am the enemy who must be loved, what then? Then, as a rule, the whole truth of Christianity is reversed. There is then no more talk of love and long-suffering. We say to the brother within us, Raka, and condemn and rage against ourselves. We hide him from the world. We deny ever having met this least among the lowly in ourselves, and had it been God himself who drew near to us in this despicable form, we should have denied him 1,000 times before a single cock had crowed. We cannot change anything unless we accept it. We cannot change anything unless we accept it. Unless we accept it. Unless we accept it. We cannot change anything unless we accept it. We cannot change anything unless we accept it. We cannot change anything unless we accept it. Unless we accept it. Unless we accept it. We cannot change anything unless we accept it.
Akira.
He's got clout. You got to be oriented towards something, because otherwise you're disoriented. You just spin around in circles, and then you suffer, and so do people around you. It's not a good solution. Orient yourself towards something. You have to figure out what it is. What will work for you? What goal would justify the suffering of your life? Start trying to piece that together. You're going to get better at it. Start trying to piece that together. You're going to get better at it. But it's a personal process, so you need a personal place to stand, because otherwise you're going to be handed a place to stand on a plate. And it may be one that makes you a puppet of someone else's goals. So I would say, what are the processes? Well, I think what I've recommended to people is clean up your room. 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 Then you'll know what to do next. See if you can stop saying things you know to be lies. That's not the same as telling the truth. You don't get to do that to begin with because you're not good enough at it to even attempt it in some sense. But everyone can stop saying things they know to be falsehoods. Stop saying things that violate your conscience. Here's another idea. Stop saying and doing things that make you feel weak. All you have to do is pay attention to that. Some things you do will make you feel disintegrated. It's a physiological sensation. Some things improve your integrity and some things disintegrate you. The things that disintegrate you, you often do to impress other people. You're escaping what you know to be your moral obligation. And your moral obligation stems naturally from your aims. And if you don't have an aim, well then, you're aimless. Clean up your room. 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 Then you'll know what to do next. I had a girl come up to me last night. She said, I started cleaning up my room and it completely changed my life. She said, your room is an externalization of your mind. And that's right. That's exactly true. To the degree that you're in your room, the room is you. So straighten up what you can straighten up and quit saying things that make you feel weak. And then you'll know what to do next. Clean up your room. 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 Then you'll know what to do next. It's like, hey, man, you have a room. Most people throughout human history have not had a room. You have a room. Well, my room's a hellhole. It's like, well, then you're a denizen of hell inhabiting it. You should do something about that. Well, what? Well, put it in minimal order. Get your clothes together because you have to wear those. People are looking at your clothes. What clothes should you be wearing? Not the clothes of a total wretched loser. How about that? What about your bed? Well, is it comfortable? Do you make it in the morning so it looks like half civilized? Can you sleep there? It's like, is there junk everywhere so you just hate your life when you walk into your room? It's like, clean the damn thing up. See if you can do it. Order your drawers. Learn to fold your clothes. Put it in minimal order. And then, man, you could get spectacular. You said, put a plant in there. It's like, maybe I could make it beautiful. Every social animal, and even many animals who aren't social, are embedded in a dominance hierarchy.
Okay, let's go.
The dominance hierarchy has a structure. We couldn't call it a dominance hierarchy. Dominance hierarchy A, B, C, thousands of them across thousands of years. What's central to all of them? That's the pyramid pyramid of value? What question do you need answered about the pyramid of value? What's at the top? Because that's the ideal. That's the eye at the top of the pyramid. The golden Buddha in the lotus. It's the same thing. The same thing as the crucifix. And that has to do with something like the voluntary acceptance and therefore transcendence of suffering. 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 The voluntary acceptance and therefore transcendence of suffering. These are not arbitrary ideas. They're deeply rooted in biology and culture. They're as deeply rooted in biology as the dominance hierarchy is rooted in biology. And we already know the answer to that. The dominance hierarchy has been around for 350 million years. It's a long time. You don't get to just brush that off and say, well, morality is some sort of second-order cognitive problem. It's like, no, it's not. You have a counter at the bottom of your brain that keeps track of where you are in terms of your status, and it bloody well regulates the sensitivity of your emotions. So if you're at the bottom of the hierarchy, barely clinging on to the world, everything overwhelms you, and that's because you're damn near dead. And so everything should overwhelm you. You've got no extra resources. You're sunk. And if you're nearer the top, then your serotonin levels go up. You're less sensitive to negative emotion. You're less impulsive. You live longer. Everything works in your favor. Your immune system functions better, and you're oriented at least to some degree towards the medium and long-term future. And you can afford that because all hell isn't breaking loose around you all the time. And so then the question is there a way of being that increases the probability that you're going to move up dominance hierarchies? Well, that doesn't seem to be a particularly provocative proposition. The same thing as the crucifix. And that has to do with something like the voluntary acceptance and therefore transcendence of suffering. 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 The voluntary acceptance and therefore transcendence of suffering. Okay, so back to Jung. See, Jung believed that once we had stopped populating the cosmos with gods, that they went inside. Think about it this way. Archaic person looks at the sky, uses his imagination to populate the sky. What's the sky? Well, it's the constellations. It's the domain of the gods. Well, why? Because the gods are what are out there beyond your understanding. Well, that's what you see when you look up at the sky. So you populate the night sky with figures of your imagination. So the gods are the things that you broadcast out of your imagination and see spread over the world. It's like the contents of your unconscious are manifesting themselves when you encounter the unknown. It's exactly what it is. How else could it be? You're projecting your fantasy onto what you don't understand. That's how you start to cope with what you don't understand. You populate the unknown with deities. Where did they come from? They came from your imagination. Well, what happens when you take them out of the world? Do they disappear? No, they just go back into your imagination. That's the same motif as rescuing your dead father from the belly of the whale. Belly of the whale. Belly of the whale. Rescuing your dead father from the belly of the whale. Belly of the whale. Belly of the whale. Rescuing your dead father from the belly of the whale. Belly of the whale. Belly of the whale. It's the same idea. Is that the corpses of the gods inhabit your imagination. So where do you go if you need to revivify them? You go into your imagination.
Question, I guess, that keeps coming up to me was, what are we supposed to do?
Well, I keep saying de-emphasize anxiety, reassure people. You meet people who say, I'm really scared. I'm scared about my job. I'm scared. And so don't worry. You don't know enough to worry. That's God's truth. Don't worry. Who do you think you are that you should worry, for crying out loud? Don't worry. That's God's truth. It's a total waste of time. It presupposes such a knowledge of the situation that it is in fact a form of hubris. Now what you do is just pay your bills and, pack heat if you need to, and don't worry. That's all. Yes. Worry is praying to the devil. That's great. Worry is betting against yourself. Wepo Yang, a great Chinese Taoist who wrote many, many commentaries on the I Ching. He was asked at the end of his life, what was his conclusion of a life of studying the I Ching? He said, worry is preposterous. That was it. Don't worry. You don't know enough to worry. That's God's truth. Worry. Who do you think you are that you should worry, for crying out loud? Don't worry. That's God's truth. Worry. You don't know enough to worry. That's God's truth. Worry. Who do you think you are that you should worry, for crying out loud? That's God's truth. Worry is preposterous. Don't worry. Worry is preposterous. Don't worry. Worry is preposterous. Worry is preposterous. Don't worry. Worry is preposterous. Worry is preposterous. That's God's truth. That's God's truth.
I tell you, it is preposterous.
What would be the forms of culture that we would say to be necessary or most inclined to foster in the individual that blowing of the flame?
I think the most accessible form for most people is music. And music, to me, is the most representational form of art, because I think that the world is made out of patterns. And we perceive some patterns as objects, but fundamentally it's patterns. And what you want is all the patterns of the world to interact harmoniously in something where every element is related intelligibly to every other element. And I think that when your life is in harmony, then you can feel that. When you're dancing to beautiful music, you're acting that out. The music is the music of the spheres, and you're participating in the patterning of your being in accordance with that structure, and that gives you an intimation of transcendence. Music is everything. Music is everything. It's not criticizable. That's the thing that's so lovely about it, is even as our society has become more cynical and more self-destructive and more deconstructionist, the power of music has in fact grown. because it speaks to that eternal harmony. And the reality of that eternal harmony in a way that mere intellect cannot deny. And I mean, I was always amused. I went to this show, the Ramones, a punk band from New York. It was the loudest concert I'd ever heard by a good factor of 10. My ears rang for like 3 days afterwards. There were all these like nihilistic punk rockers all crammed into this theater, and below me there was a mosh pit. It was like ants on a frying pan. And they were just smashing into each other and throwing people around up above them, and it was quite rough. And they're all having this beautifully transcendent musical experience which belied all of their nihilism. And they absolutely thrived on it. It was like, and even the lyrics were harsh and nihilistic, but it didn't matter because the music in its rough form was something that united them in the sense of this like patterned beauty and brought them together. And so exposure to music, people die without music. It's like music is everything. Music is everything. Music is everything. Music is everything.
Alrighty. I'm still in that tuning. Mary, my mind is to say the least. It's wrong lyric. Hold on, try to remember lyrics. Mary, my lover, in a place to admire. I don't have to even ask her. I can look in her eyes and thank God that I am forgiven. Thank all of my friends to say I've been true if they've forgotten. Mary, my mind is to say the least. It's been awful hard to just stand on my feet. I think I'll slow down if I am able. I won't drown in the ocean or starve in my place at the table. Lucky ones are we all till it is over. Everyone, near and far, when you smile, the sun it peeks through the clouds, never die, will always be around and around and around. How is your sister? And what of your brother? Extend hellos to your father and mother. What in the world will cause you any sorrow? Lighten your load, or see how I killed the wheelbarrow I borrowed. Lucky ones are we all till it is over. Everyone, near and far, when you smile, the sun it peeks through the clouds, never die, will always be around and around and around. Lucky ones are we all till it is over. Everyone, near and far, when you smile, the sun it peeks through the clouds, never die, will always be around and around and around. I saw the Rolling Stones stopped moving. Some ancient hero on the Sunset Strip. He left behind a legacy of ruin. Now painted ladies wanna hold my gun. If the whole time I'd been acting, when I sang Moon River in that silent film, and I really made a sound when they call action. I swear that man was womankind's first husband. They all died in a line to save him. I'm a steady hand, I'm a Dodgers fan, I'm a leading brand, I'm a one-night stand, I'm a ladies man. Ooh, some ladies man. Ooh, some ladies man. Couldn't see his used up body at the funeral by virtue of the flailing of his conquests. They tied down his casket with the garter belts. His troubled heart was beating in a sequin dress. Someone must console these lonesome daughters. No written word of ballads will appease them. The cowboy and the cop shot down the ladies' man. The human nights in LA are now silent. I swear that man was womankind's first husband. Only son of the ladies' man. Only son of the ladies' man. Only son of the ladies' man. Jesus Christ, girl, what are people gonna think when I show up to one of several funerals I've attended for Grandpa this week? With you, with me, someone's gotta help me dig. Someone's gotta help me dig. Jesus Christ, girl, it hasn't been long, so it seems, since I was picking out an island and a tomb for you at the Hollywood Cemetery. You kiss on me. We should let this dead guy sleep. We should let this dead guy sleep. Jesus Christ, girl, I laid up for hours and days, retracing the expanse of your American back, without a rolling weed in my veins. You came, I think, 'cause the marble made my cheeks look pink. But I'm unsure of so many things. Ooh, ooh. I don't know if I can do that part right now. Someone's gotta help me think. Someone's gotta help me think. Someone's gotta help me think. I'm gonna take a whack at this song right now. I haven't played it enough lately. Ancient holy wars, dead religions, holocausts, new regimes, old ideals. That's now myth, that's now real. Original sin, genetic fate, revolution, spinning plates. It's important to stay informed, the commentary to comment on. Oh, and no one ever really knows you, and life is brief. So I've heard, well, what's that got to do with this black hole in me? Age-old generals, infotainment capital, golden bowls and mercury, bohemian nightmare and dust bowl chic. This documentary's lost on me, satirical news, free energy, mobile lifestyle, loveless sex, independence, happiness. Oh, and no one ever knows the real you, and life is brief. So I've heard, but what's that got to do with this atom bomb and me? Coliseum families, the golden era of TV. Eunuch sluts, consumer slaves, arose by any other name. Carbon footprint, incest streams, fuck the mother in the green. Planet cancer, sweet revenge, isolation, online friends. Oh, and love is just an institution based on human frailty. What's your paradise gotta do with Adam and Eve? Maybe love is just an economy based on resource scarcity. What I fail to see is what that's gotta do with you and me. Down the road, pants down to my knees, screaming, please come help me. That Canadian shaman gave a little too much to me, and I'm writing a novel, 'cause it's never been done before. First house that I saw, I wrote house upon the door, and told the people that lived there they had to get out, 'cause my reality is realer than yours, and there's no time in the present. And there's a black dog on the bed. Went to the backyard to burn my only clothes, and then the dog ran out and said, you can't turn nothing into nothingness with me no more, and I'm no doctor, but that monkey might be right. And if he is, I'll be walking in my whole life. Drove to Malibu on a tour buggy with Neil. He said, you're gonna have to drive me out on the beach if you ever wanna ride for real. And I said, I'm sorry. Young man, what was your name again? Everywhere I go in West Hollywood, it's for the people pretending they don't see the actress and the actress wishing that they would, and we could do ayahuasca. Baby, if I wasn't holding all these drinks, something about the way Violet whips her hair makes me empty my pockets, cutting corn on the corners, bumming 20s as if I was the mayor. And I don't need any new friends, but I could really use something to do. So if you're up for it sometime, I swear you wouldn't have to be my muse. Heidegger and such, drinking poppy tea. I could have sworn last night I passed out in my van, and now these guys are pouring one for me, and I'll never leave the canyon, 'cause I'm surrounded on all sides by people writing novels and living on amusement rides. took me to the movies. You took me to the dance. You took me to the warehouse, tied up in the back of your van. You said whip it out, and I started to shout, I'm in love with the woman again. Well, you took me to your office. We went to meet your folks. We went out to the garden shed where I took off all my clothes. I was terrified by the look in your eyes, and there's lots of loving I don't know. Well, you took me to the ceremony to sweat out all my fear. I came across a cosmic serpent with hands woven into his hair. Infuse my spirit, God, I'm gonna stay inside. I'm never sleeping in the teepee again. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Well, you asked me where I came from in the middle of round 10. I thanked you for the compliment before you clarified what you meant. You said, what the hell are you doing here? There's a parlor in my apartment. Fishing in America made me go and buy a pole. By the time I got around to reading the book, I was a celebrated deep sea pro. Drinking greyhounds way below ground on my very own TV show. We went to get some work done, so our faces finally matched. The doctor took one look at me and took a skin graft out of my ass. This is what it takes to take you on a date. I'm gonna put my member behind glass. If I make it out alive from Hollywood and Vine, I'm gonna up in the cabin up in the Northwest. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. That's like literally just my second time playing that. That's why I was fucking up so much. It's getting kind of late. I can't really keep playing. I just want to play a little bit of music tonight. Let's try this though. Like a pervert on a crowded bus, the glare of love bears down on us. Like a carcass left out in the heat, this love is bursting out of me. And disappointing diamonds are the rarest of them all. And the love that lasts forever really can't be that special. Sure, we know our roles and how it's supposed to go. Does everybody have to be the greatest story ever told? like an oil tanker tipped at sea. This love's contaminated me like a constant switching in my eye. This love of ours will never die. And disappointing diamonds are the rarest of them all. And the love that lasts forever really can't be that special. Sure, we know our roles and how it's supposed to go. Does everybody have to be the greatest story ever told? I think I'll end it there. Gonna switch over to just Twitch because I have like limited time on this multi-streaming shit. Apparently that's how they're doing it nowadays. Alright.